Anytime you're going to go through a braking spot, you're going to go through 3 instinctual decisions that you're going to do in a split-second decision. Here they are. The first decision is when you're going to brake. It's going to go through your mind this very little question, when do I brake? And that's going to be based on your instinct, based on your confidence, based on your feeling. And that's going to be the perception you have with the speed, with the kart, with the grip, whatever. And that's going to be basically the point where you're going to brake, right? You're going to watch in the data. That's where you have braked. It's going to go down the speed. So that's the braking point. In karting, there's no such a thing as reference points for braking. There are some rare cases where it's so clear that you have a braking point, like you have a cone, or there's like a white line, or there's like a beginning of a curb on the entry. Sometimes it's very clear. For example, in Lonato, there's at the mechanics corner, as like turn 4, turn 5, whatever. You have a clear braking points there. In any category, you have the entry of the curb, which is so clear there, and you arrive and you can see with even though the corner is right, with the back of your eye, with the peripheral vision, you can see you're getting there, and that's where you brake. In Mini, you brake in the middle of that curve, so quite a bit later. In KZ, you brake just after that, because you have front brakes, but you're at such high speed. So for me, in karting, it's much more by feeling. In cars, you have them 50 meters board, 100 meters board, 150 meters board. Based on that, you arrive, and it's like that. And when you don't have them, it's quite difficult. You have to be driving a bit more like you used to do in karting. But yeah, most hairpins, like in Monza, you arrive at 300 in F2. If you didn't have the meter boards, it would be impossible. Like, honestly, you arrive and you have to brake at 100 meters board. If you didn't have them, it would be so hard. It's so fast. At 300 kilometers an hour in such a high speed, the distance traveled is huge. You have the meters board, and again, you have to judge properly, because sometimes you think you braked. This is a nice anecdote. I remember I used to be at the beginning Formula. I was like, I thought I was braking in that place, let's say 50 meters board. But I was braking a bit early. Like, my perception was that I braked. So my teammates was asking, "Oh, where are you braking for, say, turn 1?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm braking at 50." Like, at 50? No way. I'm braking like at 80. And like, it was my feeling that I was braking at 50, but I was approaching 50. So that was the reality. So the first decision is when to brake. And that's a micro decision that you have. It's not like you consciously think, okay. But of course, if you look at the data and you watch the session and you're like, okay, I braked too early compared to my teammates or compared to myself. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to train myself to subconsciously push that when decision later. I'm going to be before the session, okay, I'm going to try to brake later. I'm going to brake later. If the car allows me, I'm going to brake later. Okay. The second decision that goes on unconsciously is where you will place your kart on the track, because there's a big difference between placing the kart to the edge of the track, so fully to the white line, fully optimizing the track usage, or, for example, being in the middle of the track or on the inside. But not even a rookie brakes on the inside, like unless you're defending or you're overtaking, whatever. Because I see a lot of drivers, they don't use absolutely everything from the track. They're not using absolutely every centimeters or millimeters on the track. They're like keeping like 10 centimeters from the white line, and then the white line itself is other 10 centimeters, so it's like normally 20 centimeters from the grass. Some cases you have the curbs, and in that case it's easy for everybody because you just have to use the curb, even though not everybody uses them. Sometimes the curbs are dirty because the entry curb there, for example, on the brakes, you brake, you feel the vibration because you are opening up the corner, and the curb is normally quite clean, and in that case it's going to be fine for you to use it. But of course, if there's full of mud, stopped raining, and there's still water on the track, on the curb, not gonna go very well. There are some curves you can use them, and in that case you want to massively use the track. In that case, it's the decision where you brake. Normally the more the better, unless of course you go beyond and you go on the grass. But get used to being absolutely on the limit. You put once or twice the wheel on the grass, you find the limit and you slightly bring it back. I see so many good drivers that are not able to be great because of this issue. They're always so conservative. They keep those 10 centimeters, but 10 centimeters every corner. At the end of the day, at the end of the lap, maybe 2/10, because giving up 10 centimeters, or sometimes they're on the white line, but you could be even more. I'm so keen on this, and sometimes I'm really stressing my drivers for that. I'm like, guys, you are too conservative. You're not using the white line, because sometimes there's a white line, but the white line is not perfectly on the edge of the tarmac. There's maybe even 5 centimeters more, you know what I mean? In that case, I'm like, mate, you are too conservative. It's like when you're in the street circuit, you're braking on the edge of the wall and you're apexing on the edge of the wall, you're exiting on the edge of the wall. If you give up 20 centimeters to everything, For all the corners, you're giving up like 1/10 per corner. For 10 corners is 1 second. Unless you are closer to the walls, and in that case, but in karting, you have the white lines. Yes, worst case scenario, you drop a wheel, you spin, you go whatever. Go over the limit, and then you can get to the limit. So braking late is hard, and lots of people are conservative with that. But also where they decide to brake. So when they are conservative, where they're conservative, and that's not good. You don't want to be that kind of driver. And then the third decision that goes on through your mind is how, the braking efficiency. So it's going to be, how much am I going to brake? Do I brake super hard? Do I brake soft? Do I brake late and I hold the brakes, trail brake into the corner? So that's the more like the technique. So do I want to tap the brakes only? Because sometimes, you know, you go through some corners that they don't require smash on the brakes. You know, in French Quarter, there are some corners in sector 2, in turn like 9, 10, 11, there you only have to tap them a little bit. Like, you don't want to smash. You know, in the fast corner or medium speed corner, you don't want to smash the brakes, you know. Of course, you need to be mindful about that. The decision, it's the how. If you're supposed to brake really hard and hold the brakes in the apex, that's what you have to go for it. If your teammates are doing it and they're quicker, you gotta do it too. Find the confidence, find the courage, find the balls to brake really hard and on the limit of sliding, locking, spinning, whatever. But again, come on, you're not gonna spin if you brake hard unless if you have zero car control. If you're afraid of braking hard because you are afraid of what the car does, it means your car control is not good. You need to train the car control. You need to do a lot of days of driving in the wet, even doing some ice karting, but you need to develop a car control, because when you have to brake hard, the car is gonna be a little bit like on the edge. If you wanna win, if you wanna have pole position, if you wanna be the fastest, you have to do it. So I hope it was clear. When essentially are you gonna brake? So which is that braking point, which can be a reference or just by feeling. I normally just go by feeling in karting because there's very rarely any reference, unless some rare cases. Second decision, where to brake. And now it's like micro decisions, instinct, it's muscle memory, repetition, and it becomes a second nature. Am I going to be fully using the track, or am I going to be conservative? Maybe the last lap of the race, I'm a bit more conservative, but again, you're going to do it automatic. At the beginning, it's not going to be automatic. You have to push yourself to use more track. But if you just do it progressively, little steps, you will just put the wheel a bit, you will lose 1/10 and no problem. Or sometimes you go in the grass, you lose 1 second, no problem. You try it again. All right, using the old track. Should I use the curb? Is the curb clean? Okay, I'll use the curb. Is the curb dirty? No, I'll not use the curb. Is there any curb? No. Okay, then I'll use maximum white line. Third decision is how. Hard, soft, holding the brakes, or tapping off and coming off the gas right and going on the gas with weight, like these kind of things. That's the how, the technique. I hope this was helpful. It should bring some clarity. So now I think we give a bit of an explanation what's going through a driver's mind when they're going through braking and all the micro decisions they have. The best drivers normally are when, the latest, where, the most, and how, the hardest.